back to the Walking with Wanzu podcast. I'm your host, Yvette Wanzu. How are you? How have you been? How has life been treating you? It's been treating you good? Tough times? Sending you hugs and love nonetheless. This is a safe space that I have created for us to be able to talk about all things life, and I draw from my own personal life experiences, some of the good, the bad, and some of the very laughable ones. This is me just giving you a tiny little sneak peek of what goes on in my head and in my heart, if you will. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy listening. Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your girl Wanzu, your host for the Walking with Wanzu podcast. Thank you so much for all the love and all the feedback that I have been getting. Thank you again once more for tuning in and for coming back. Yet another episode 6. We are almost finishing season 4 and I am so excited. I have some exciting news to share with you, which I might share just towards the end of this particular episode. But first things first, have you listened to the previous episode? That was episode 5, and it was a bit fun. We kept it cute, we kept it light, and we had our very first male guest on the podcast. We had a session called 21 Questions, which was inspired by 50 Cent's song 21 Questions. If you haven't listened to that song, I suggest you go and listen to it. It's one of the good songs. It's an oldie but a goodie. And we had so much fun just asking each other random questions, getting to know each other a bit better. And I think it was also a very fun episode where you guys could get to know a bit more about me. It's not every day heavy and serious topics. Sometimes we keep it cute and sometimes we keep it light. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, this is me telling you, even before you proceed, please put a pause, go back and listen to episode 5. It is so much fun. So without further ado, I'll get into today's episode. Today's episode is more or less it's more like a catch up, right? It's me telling you some of the things that have been going on in my mind, and also just me being conscious of the fact that we are on the last quarter of 2023. Who would have thought we would get here? It's September, guys. Imagine just like that. The other day it was January. We were complaining the way the year is going slowly. We could hardly believe that it was 2023, but now we are coming to the end of the year, which is practically the last quarter. Those of you who love Christmas are already just here giving me migraines. I know a lot of our Instagram stories and a lot of things on social media are going to start featuring that famous Mariah Carey song for Christmas is what? I don't know. There's that Christmas song that she sang that people usually like to put it on every post they post during Christmas. So it's about to be that time. But before we get into the Christmas season and the festivities and everything that's going to be happening around that period, I think it's safe to say that we have 2 more months before that madness. And so it's September, and I just wanted to pour my heart out to you and to preempt some of the things that have been going on in my mind, even as I gear up to finish the last quarter of the month of the year 2023 nicely and strong, and just see what it is that God has in store for me and what it is that I can work towards, because nobody's trying to finish the year feeling empty, or nobody's trying to finish the year the same way they started. Of course, I would want to feel like there's some element of growth. I would like to feel like I've done a few things here and there. And so as we wind down the year, it's normally a very it's an interesting time, right? For some companies, it's that time when they're doing evaluation. They're trying to figure out, okay, so what have we done right? How can we finish on a high? For you, on a personal level, I'm sure you're just doing a bit of stock taking and trying to figure out, okay, so now it's the last quarter of the year. What have I done with my life? What have I done with myself? Have I achieved some of the goals that I had set out to try and conquer and I had put for myself rather? It's just a very interesting time. It's a time for stock taking, but it's also a time where we go into overdrive and you're trying to maybe try and finish up and finalize on some of the things that you genuinely wanted to do that you haven't gotten around to doing. And so if you listen to the previous episode, I was talking about how I personally over time, I'm noticing, even as I get older, I'm struggling with something that is called social anxiety. I don't know where it's coming from, or perhaps I do. And maybe at the moment, I'm not comfortable enough to preempt everything or share everything word for word. I, however, have noticed with concern that I struggle a lot with social anxiety. And it could be, there are a number of things that could be contributing towards that. However, it's something that I am consciously growing aware of. And it's something that I would like to change, or I would like to work towards just making sure that it doesn't overwhelm me or overpower me or becomes an essential part of who I am, right? And so maybe first things first, we could unpack that because that's something that has been heavy on my mind. It's something that I have noted about myself, and I don't know if you're listening to this and it's something that you're struggling with or someone that you know is struggling with. So maybe first things first, we could start by just defining what social anxiety is. And Google says social anxiety is an intense, persistent fear of being watched and judged by others. Where I feel like that definition is really shouting. I was listening to something today on my way home, which also really just prompted me and made me feel comfortable to just discuss this as well. And it was a podcast as well. Like, you know me, I love to consume a lot of self-help content, especially in form of podcasts. And so they were talking about social anxiety and just how, how it comes about, how you can deal with it, how you can overcome it, how you can try and just deal with it. And this person said something that I thought was really interesting. They said social anxiety comes from you being scared of showing your true self. Yeah. So the real essence of social anxiety is genuinely just fear of rejection. It's like you're feeling, okay, so I'm surrounded by these people are here, they're in my space, but if they get to know who I truly am, if I show myself for who I truly am, if I show my true self, how I talk, how I walk, how I view certain things, I'm scared that they might not like me anymore, or they might view me in a certain way. So I'm genuinely just scared that they will not see me in a welcoming way, or they just won't like me. And so that's the huge basis of social anxiety. It's just a fear of being watched and being judged by others. And the thing about social anxiety is it can affect your work, it can affect school, but it can also just affect your day to day work activities. And it can make it very hard to make and to keep friends. Now, I have been in instances where I have been in social circles, and I think my humor and just how sometimes I go about things really helps me. And so sometimes I can tend to conceal it, and sometimes I can't. But I have been in circles where people have thought that perhaps I'm a snob. People have thought that perhaps I am mean. People have thought that perhaps I'm just not the nicest person. But all that was just because I was genuinely anxious. And so sometimes when I'm in social circles, maybe I'm with family or I'm with friends, and then I'm all of a sudden I'm thrust into a huge group of people. You'll find me, I tend to recoil, right? So maybe I'll just go into my own space and do my own thing, or I'll be unusually quiet. And those people who know me are like, but Wanzu, you're the life of the party. But Wanzu, you're always such a good time. You give you know how to make good conversation. So why are you so quiet all of a sudden? And it's just something that I have noticed. And so I went deeper into it, just tried to research, see what the root of or the root cause of this could be. And then I just told myself, you know what, you just can't be saying, I'm socially awkward, I have social anxiety like it's a flex, because it's not. And as human beings, we're built for connections. And honestly, the world that we're living in today, connections are everything. And I don't mean like go into a party and now feel the pressure to talk to like 50 or 60 people, or connect with everyone in the room. I personally like to have very personal and deep conversations. So when I'm thrust into a space where I'm hanging out with a lot of people, then I like to feel, if I can talk to two or three or one person and feel like I have connected with them, and that's a deep and genuine connection, then I'm happy. I'm happy about that. So just a minute, guys. I need to fix something. I'm back. So as I was saying, so when I'm thrust into a space where I feel like I'm relating or I'm hanging out with a number of people, I like to feel like, even if I talk to one person or two people, I like to come out of that particular interaction feeling like it was genuine, it was raw, and it was just a good and authentic conversation, right? So then I just sought out to think, okay, so what is making you socially anxious, right? What is giving you social anxiety? The first thing is, of course, the fear of being judged, right? We live in a day and age where one wrong move and everybody has something to say about what you've done or what you've said, or a certain opinion or a certain way that you feel about something. So that makes you want to move with a lot of caution. I think another thing is just getting hurt by people who you genuinely thought were in your corner, or people who you thought were your friends, or people who you thought that understood you and liked you, and then or having had certain things that were said about you that could be inaccurate or could be so far from the truth. And so that tends to make me feel the need to recoil or not want to give myself too freely to new connections and all of that. But then again, the truth is, people will always have something to say. Like, people will always have an opinion about what you do, about what you say, about how you dress, basically, just about how you live your life. And so, you can't go through life trying to I can't, I personally, because I'm preaching to you as I preach to myself, I can't go through life trying to reduce myself or to morph myself in different ways to accommodate everybody that I come across. Or I can't just try and make myself invisible altogether just so I don't put myself in a space where like, people can see me or people can judge me or people can have opinions about me. Imagine, at the end of the day, life is for the living. And so I'm starting to jolt myself and to tell myself, you know what, just live your life. If you see someone, you want to talk to them, if you get a good laugh out of it, if you learn something new, just put yourself out there. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the symptoms of social anxiety, because I feel like sometimes it can really get out of hand, right? Um, and so maybe if it's something that you're struggling with, but you can't quite put a name on it, I have been privileged enough to be very aware and always to try, whenever I'm going through a particular challenge, I always try to seek it out. I try to do a bit of research just to find out, okay, so what is happening here and how can I fix this? And so maybe I would love to share with you a number of symptoms that are caused by social anxiety. The first symptom is basically just feeling anxious. How would I describe anxiety? Anxiety is just a feeling of lack of ease, right? It's like you can't breathe well, and it's this uptight feeling that you can't quite put a name on it. Yeah, it's like you can't breathe well. It's like you there's just a lack of ease. That's how I would describe it. So feeling anxious. Um, the second one is feeling self conscious around other people. That's a sign of social anxiety. So you're like, am I sitting well? Sometimes you feel you catch yourself slouching and you're like, let me sit up. Or you're generally very self conscious around other people. That's a sign of social anxiety. Another one is increased heartbeat, sweating, dizziness, and trembling. Oh my, you know what? As I am just reading this list, I feel like I'm ticking out every other thing that I normally feel. So if you are around people and you're feeling like your heartbeat is increasing, you're feeling like you're getting the sweats, you're feeling dizzy, you're feeling like you're trembling, you're getting the shakes, that could be a sign of social anxiety, and that's pretty serious. Um, the other thing is blushing or stammering when speaking. Sometimes you feel like you can lose your train of thought because you're just not feeling like you're at ease and you're anxious. So that is another sign of social anxiety. And the last one is an upset stomach. Now, if you haven't eaten anything that would cause you to have an upset stomach, I think this is the epitome of all symptoms. Just let you know that anyway, something is happening around you that is not sitting well with you, your spirit, and even now at this point, your body. So those are just some of the signs that you normally get if you have social anxiety. So how do we deal with this? How am I personally dealing with my own fair share of social anxiety? The first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to know that there are things that you can control and there are things that you can't control. And one thing that you cannot control that is genuinely out of your control is how people choose to see you, to view you, and people's opinions of you. Imagine you're who you are, whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, whether you're an ambivert, whether you're dark, you're tall, you're slim, you're thick, you're thin, who you are is who you are. And people's opinions of you are just that. They're just opinions. That's what they think. based on how it is that they choose to perceive you, or the notions that they have in their heads, or based on their own mindset. But the only thing you can control is how you move, how you react, how you carry yourself. That is what is within your control. So how about you're aware of that and then take charge of that? The second thing is to genuinely know, come out of yourself, okay? Genuinely come out of yourself and know that, imagine sometimes people also just want to get to know you. And sometimes putting yourself, throwing yourself into the deep end can really yield good fruits. So instead of when you're in a social setting, instead of like sitting in a corner or standing in a corner or isolating yourself, how about you just put yourself out there? Have a conversation with someone. And the best way to go about conversations is having genuine conversations with people. Like, try and genuinely want to get to know the person that you're interacting with. And oftentimes, because of just what we know or what we think is what it is that we're supposed to do, we tend to ask very on the surface questions like, what is it that you do? How about you ask someone, where are you from? um what's your, I don't know, like, what kind of family do you come from? Do you have siblings? Where did you grow up? And this, such questions normally draws people to think this person genuinely wants to know about me. And sometimes, as you continue with the conversations that you're having, or with the conversation, you'll tend to realize that perhaps the things that you have in common with this person that you wouldn't have known if you wouldn't have made an effort to genuinely want to get to know them on a deeper level. And now, don't I'm not saying that you go out and start asking people extremely personal questions, but if you're trying to strike up a conversation with someone you're genuinely trying to get to know, imagine, ask questions that add value, be interested, um, just try and be intentional about forming authentic and real connections. You'll be surprised just how much that works out for you. Social anxiety is not something that you overcome overnight. However, you can only start to work on something, you can only get results and heal from something when you make an effort to genuinely start working on it. So I think awareness is usually the first step. If you've experienced any of those symptoms that I have mentioned, just being aware and knowing, okay, I think I have some tendencies of feeling like I'm socially, like I have social anxiety, and then how do I deal with it and how do I move on from it? From there, it's just progress onwards and upwards, and a single step in the right direction, as I always say, is always progress. And here I'm about celebrating even the smallest of wins. And so I'm rooting for you, and I'm sending you love and hugs if that's something that you're struggling with. Now, the second thing that has been on my mind as I walk through the last quarter of the year is self preservation. Hey, it's been an interesting couple of months, if I'm being honest. This is the year that I trust myself into doing a lot of things that I have been shying away from. And I recently had a conversation with a loved one because I was in a situation where I had a disagreement with someone and I was genuinely second guessing myself in every way, shape, and form. And they said something that really stuck in my head. In fact, ever since they said it, it's been replaying in my head so many times. Um, I was in a situation where I got into an altercation, or rather, I had a disagreement with someone who was very close to me, and it was, it generally evolved into something that was public. So it was like there was disrespect, but it was done in a public way. And so it's not disrespect that I got to experience just by myself on a personal level, but it was kind of, it happened and other people got to see it happen. And so, as I was unpacking this with this person that I was talking to, they were asking me, I can see that you've started having a particular interaction with this person, and I know that you fell out, and I know the nitty gritty of whatever it is that happened. But have you guys had a conversation about it? And have you gotten an apology? Because I feel like you need one. And then how are you choosing to move forward from it? And so during that particular interaction, I just remember making excuse after excuse for this particular person. And so they paused and they were just listening to me talk and go on and on and on. And then they asked me in the end, So, how much further do you need to be disrespected before you draw the line, before you tap out, before you feel like, okay, I feel like this person has gone too far? Because for me, I feel like public humiliation is the epitome of all disrespect. And as a person, I personally, who preaches so much about self preservation and self love and self respect and all of that, I wonder why it took me so long to draw that boundary. And sometimes I think we cut the people that we love or the people that are close to us so much slack, even when they disrespect us or do wrong things to us, because, it takes so much work and so much time to find real and genuine connections that sometimes when you see that, okay, the season for this particular connection is coming to an end, and perhaps I need to walk away from it because it's no longer serving me. For most people, it's not something that you just wake up in the morning and choose to walk away from. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes time for you to be able to just process what it is that has happened. I know I personally, it takes me whenever I have a disagreement with a loved one, it takes me time to be able to just process what it is that has happened, and then from there to try and detach mentally before I even vocalize the fact that, you know what, I feel like our interaction is no longer serving me, and so I want to tap out. So it's a process for me. And sometimes if it's your loved one who's standing on the sidelines and they're watching you being constantly disrespected and being undervalued, it really makes them feel some type of way. And sometimes when you're in the thick of it, when you're in a situation and you're in the thick of it, you're in the thick of it, you don't see. You don't see. It really takes you coming out of a situation. Maybe sometimes it's months later or years later, and you're just like, was I blind the entire time? What was happening to me? And so that made me want to call myself into a meeting and just ask myself, okay, Wanzu, what truly are your boundaries? What truly are your deal breakers? When is a time when you really overextended this concept of extending grace, and now you genuinely just need to draw a boundary? I was also asking myself, when is usually the time to let go? Because sometimes you hold on to things that are no longer serving you, maybe for fear of what life would look like without that particular thing or that particular person, or what life would look like in a new dynamic or in a new space where that person is no longer part of your journey. um, I'm a huge believer in, you teach people how to treat you, right? And you could be out here saying, "Oh, I don't. That's not how I roll. I don't rock like that. I feel like that's a boundary for me." But sometimes saying that it is a boundary and then drawing the actual boundary is two different things. And so I'm in a space where I'm learning to draw my boundaries very clearly, and also once I have communicated what my boundaries are, if they're constantly crossed, to just find peace in learning to walk away and to let go of things, to let go of interactions, to let go of relationships, to let go of people that no longer serve me. And believe me when I say this is so much easier said than done. However, sometimes when the universe is trying to jolt you to make a certain move. Take it for instance, it could be a relationship, and this person has constantly disrespected you. This person has constantly lied to you. This person has constantly cheated on you, and you're still here thinking, okay, maybe they're just going through something. Maybe we just need to have a conversation. Maybe it's just a phase. Sometimes the universe will make things incredibly uncomfortable for you until you make that shift. Um, and by the time you're deciding, okay, shit has really hit the fan and now I need to make this shift, it really has. And I think I want to get to a point in my life where I don't have to let things back me up against the wall and beat me down so much, is when I say, okay, maybe I need to let go of this. And so as I gear on into the last quarter of the year, I hope that I slowly learn and develop the tools to separate myself from things when they no longer serve me, and not just separate myself from for a couple of for a while and then go back to it. If I identify that something is toxic for me, it's not good for me, it's giving me more grief than value, to learn to be able to distance myself from it. And so this is me just speaking to you and telling you that self preservation is one of the best things you could ever do for yourself. Whether it's a job, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, whether it's an environment that's no longer serving you, it is very important that you identify that you let it go, and that you distance yourself from it. When you start to learn how to separate yourself from things that no longer serve you, the first time is a bit hard, the second time is a bit hard, but as you consciously choose to honor yourself and guard your heart and guard your peace, it becomes a habit, it becomes a lifestyle, and then it becomes your nature. And before you know it, imagine you're living your best life because you're not giving space to things that don't allow you to thrive or that don't give you peace. The last thing that has been on my mind as we come towards the third quarter, the last, actually, it's the fourth quarter, the last quarter of the year, is business. And this particular segment of the podcast, I'm so excited to be able to say, is sponsored by a business that I recently started, and it's called Happy Socks by Wanzu. I recently started a business where I sell socks. There are happy socks of all kind. I mean, if you like your socks cut subtle, there are those that are just in particular bold colors, and then there are those that are happy socks. And the reason why I named this particular business Happy Socks is because I realized a while back that I am really into socks, and I love them as what is it called, as embellished as they come, whether they have like apples drawn, or it's like a rainbow and all of that. And I just feel like it's usually an item that sometimes is overlooked. Sometimes we feel like socks is just for men, or if you're a sneakerhead like me and you're a girl, then sometimes it's only the sneakerhead girls that love socks. But I feel like socks are good, especially when you're approaching winter season and you're at home and you're chilling. Who says you can't chill and look good with cute socks? Your socks don't always have to be those ones with the potatoes, and the socks that we normally say have potatoes are the ones that are normally torn. And so this particular segment of the podcast is sponsored by my new business, Happy Socks by Wanzu. I will be sharing my Instagram handle. I will be sharing my Facebook handle as well for the business. Please go on there and support. The socks are only going for 200 shillings. They look so good, they look so cute, and I can't wait to share my collection with you. All these collections are handpicked by me, and I hope you find something that you like. And you can, feel free to buy one for a loved one, feel free to buy one for your significant other, feel free to buy one for yourself, and support, support, support. Now, that's that. We needed to pay our bills. As I talk about business, guys, I feel like this is the year that I have also started to unlock my business mind. I have always been so scared of doing business. First of all, because of how people always have opinions when you're out here trying to start a business. Oh, that business is too saturated. You know how the negative Nancy's be talking. Are you sure that's going to work? Do you have enough capital? Maybe you should hold off. Maybe you should do this and you should do that. And I'm just starting to learn that sometimes if you're working a 9 to 5, I mean, we thank God for salaries and consistent income, but sometimes it's always good to have additional income on the side. And one of the best ways to do that is to identify a problem and then try and see if you as a person can provide a solution to that problem. And so I have been going through the better part of early September and even late August, trying to consume a lot of content about people who've started businesses and failed, those who just thrust themselves into the entrepreneurship journey and are doing really well for themselves, or even those who are currently on their entrepreneurship journey and they're just trying to figure it all out. And so I am deeply intrigued by business and the world of business and businesses. I, however, know that my threshold for failure is just very low at the moment. And so I'm keen on starting small and then building up on it and seeing how it goes. I, however, know that moving forward, one of the best ways to be able to make passive income and just even just deal with the current economic times is trying to identify something that someone can do, whether it's like a business or whatever, and then do it and do it really, really well. And so, I just hope that, if you've been thinking of doing a particular business, imagine it's never too late to start. How about you just start now with what you have and with what it is, with whatever knowledge or information that you have? How about you just start now and then see how it goes? So about business, you can never really quite be ready. I was also listening to a song today. Because that song by Wale and did I pronounce his name well? Wale and Asha. That song for If It's a Question of My Love. Anyway, so and the priest was, there's normally a conversation at the beginning of the song, and then now that's when they get into the song, and this person was being asked, can you ever be really, I think it was a person who was like in the song, in the music video, trying to act like the one who's joining the people who are getting married, and he was being asked, can you ever be quite ready for love? And he said no, because it's a new season, it's a new experience, and you can never quite be ready for a new experience because that's something that you haven't gone through before. And so you're getting into it as raw and as fresh as they come. And so you can never quite be ready for a new experience. And I feel like that's the same thing for business because how people's businesses turn out is always so different for everybody. And the entrepreneurial journey or the business journey for people is normally so different. But I came across something that I want to share with you, even as if you've been in a season like me where you've been thinking, okay, perhaps I feel like I want to start a new business or I want to do something on the side, and I'm not sure if I have all the logistics correct. I'm not sure if I have all the numbers. I'm not sure if I need to start now. Um, and I think this can also apply for creatives as well. If you've been thinking about starting that podcast, imagine start it. If you've been thinking about doing videos, if you've been thinking about making content, if you've been thinking about maybe perhaps you draw really well, just sharing whatever creative skills that you have. It starts now. Just start with what you have and what you know, and then just build on it. Let me share this thing. I saw this and I screenshotted it. I thought it was so profound, and it says their flyer is ugly, but they posted it. Their book is 26 pages, but it's published. Their event had 14 people, but it happened. Their pictures are pixelated, but it's done. Your critiques may be valid, but they're a projection of your reality. You didn't finish yet. So hush, I say, and get it done. Love us for real. So imagine people would always have something to say. And the best thing about starting to do something, if it's been on your mind, is you can build on it. How do you even know to improve something that you haven't done yet? I remember when we started this podcast, me, I was just sitting on the floor. I had been hit by COVID. My daughter was unwell. And I just thought, you know what? It's at night. I'm feeling like insomnia is hitting me really hard. I just took my medicine. How about I record my very first episode? And it's been onwards and upwards from there, and I can't wait until maybe we get to a space where we can do audio visual and y'all can see me while I talk to you, and you can see the guests that I bring on as well, and I can just genuinely build on this to a point where I give you incredible content. And we really thrive and flow and just move from a point of evident growth, right? um so if you've been thinking about starting something, whether it's a business or just doing something on the side or engaging your talents, start. And what a better time to start than now? Maybe the last thing I would say as I come to an end, guys, is just because it's the last quarter of the year doesn't mean you kill yourself and you break your back with anxiety and stress and comparison. You have your own journey. You are brought in this world for a reason. You're your own person. There are so many instances during this year when I have watched people around me win in so many big ways. Um, I've dated this year, and unfortunately, my relationship has not seen the end of the year. But I have seen people be proposed to. I've seen people close to me clock their fifth 10th year in marriage, and I just see them grow and thrive and blossom. I've seen people around me and very close to me get jobs that they dreamed of, that they dreamt of, that they prayed for. um, I've just seen people elevate and do big things that even I personally am still praying and trusting God for. But one thing about me is I will always clap and cheer all the people around me until it's my turn. And I don't know what my turn looks like. My turn could be next month, my turn could be next week, my turn could be next year, my turn could be 5 years from now. But I choose to not be oblivious of the blessings that I have around me: a roof over my head, a beautiful, loving, and healthy daughter, family and friends and people around me that support me and are constantly rooting for me and cheering me on. And so while I wait for the things that I hope for and pray for and trust God for, I choose to hold on to the blessings that are around me and the things that I have that are going on for me that are good and that are well. And so I choose gratitude and I choose to just remain hopeful and see what it is that life has in store for me. And so if you're in a season where you're in a waiting season, or if you're in a season where things that you were trusting God for or that you're really hoping for or working towards have happened for you, I celebrate that with you as well, and good on you. And so don't let the anxiety of feeling like, wow, wow, the year is coming to an end. What have I done? What is it I need to do? Don't let that steal your joy. And I don't know why it is that when we're recording is when now everybody and everyone and their auntie and their uncle and their ancestors wants to shout and scream their head off. And then when you mention it, now they're all quiet. So if you're hearing some background noise, guys, I'm just coming from work and I really wanted to be able to share with you what has been on my mind, or as we go towards the last quarter of 2023. Sending you so much love and hugs. Please walk your journey. Be you, do you, shine, because you know what? This is it's the one life that you get, and you might as well live it to the fullest. Sending you so much love and hugs. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. What's some of the things that we discussed on today's episode that you really resonated with? Perhaps you even have a similar story or something that really tickled you. I would love to get your feedback. You can find me on Instagram at the Walking with Wanzu podcast. You can also find me on Gmail. You can write me an email, tewanzu@gmail.com. Better yet, you can leave a note if you're listening on Spotify or any other streaming platform and let me know whatever spoke to you during this particular episode. Life is too hard to go through it alone. Let's just do life together. Amma, until next time, bye-bye.